Hello everyone! Welcome to Democracy 3. Now why am I playing Democracy 3? Isn't that kind of a little bit out of its time already? It's been out for a little while, people have already played it. Well, yes and no. Democracy is always interesting to spectate. Namely politics, I mean. But the reason I've decided to play Democracy 3 is because, well, lately I've been in a lot of political debates online. And, well, I wanted to see how effectively I could run a country. And I bought Democracy 3 a little while ago. But since then, an expansion has come out, and they have added some Steam Workshop support. So I have a couple mods and the expansion. Let's see, it was Social Engineering was the expansion one. So that's active by default because, you know, its expansion adds more stuff to the game. And then I got a couple more things that were the workshop part. There's Sex Education, which is available by default, and I believe that one is kind of important to have in the game because it is something that is debated about in a lot of countries, whether or not we educate kids on sex. I say yes because if you don't educate kids on sex, then they don't know what they're really doing and end up getting pregnant when they're teenagers. LGBTQ rights, for those who do not know, that stands for lesbian, gay, bi, transgendered, and either queer or questioning. I never understood the Q part, but that is a topic that is hugely debated throughout the world these days. So I thought, you know, that'd be a very good thing to add into here because it is very relative to, you know, modern time. And the game does have one event that I know of that talks about gay rights, and that's whether or not to ban gay marriage. And that's really it, from what I know. And then there's something that I thought should have been in the game by default, and that is this legalized drugs and prostitution thing. Technically, drugs and prostitution do affect tourism, but in the main game, by default, you can't tax prostitution, which I thought was kind of odd. So I added the mod because, well, prostitution is its own thing, and if it's going to be legal, might as well have a taxation on it, right? Let's see. Now, there was one issue I had with the legalized drugs thing, and that's legalizing it both increases crime and decreases crime. Now, it decreases crime because it decreases organized crime, but then it apparently increases crime because drugs. So this kind of fixes that little issue I have with it, because I don't think it reflected reality all that well. But then again, there probably isn't that good of a way of comparing whether or not legalized drugs increases crime or not, other than if you look at like the Netherlands or Holland or whatever European country it is that has pretty much all drugs legalized and is apparently a very nice place to live. So few mods have been added. Let's go ahead and start a new game. And I think that, well, while I would like to tackle the United States, I know that's a death wish. Seriously, have you seen the United States politics? It is about as chaotic as a gladiatorial death match. So I'm staying away from that. We're going to go with the United Kingdom because they're kind of similar in politics to the United States from what I know of. There's just like no president type figure. So let's go ahead and try it. And we are going to be the progressive party, because we want to head off to the future and make things good. So term length is 4 years. That's like 16 turns. And by default, the UK has no limit for the terms. I'm going to set up a 4-term limit. And we're going to leave everything else untouched. Alright, so this is the state of the country as it starts when you start up this thing. I don't know if it's randomized at all or not. I honestly haven't replayed enough to pay attention to whether or not things are different every time you load it. But let's begin our term in office. Okie dokie, so this looks like a mess, doesn't it? And just a warning. If you really, really hate people that are not, well, that are for fairly liberal and socialist kind of ideas, save yourself the trouble now, turn off this video, go find something else to watch, and never return to this video again. Because I will probably piss you off during this Let's Play. Are they gone yet? Okay, those people are gone. Those people are crazy people, aren't they? Anti-progressives. So, this is the main screen that you look at for the entirety of the game. And you might be a little bit confused by what exactly this all means. Well, let's give you a crash course. Red circles are bad, blue circles are like pivot points, and the white circles can change the pivot points to either create green circles, which are good, or red circles, which are bad, and they can either eliminate the red or green circles or create red or green circles. It's all depending on what you choose to do. So, we know that crime is fairly high in the UK right now, and we actually have a red circle indicating that we have an organized crime problem. Now when you hover over these circles, you get shown green and red and black lines. Now the green lines indicate an increase, and depending on the direction they're going, they're either going to increase the circle that you're on or increase the circle that the circle you're on is affecting. So because there is organized crime, there is an increase in crime and violent crime. Now, intelligence services are currently decreasing the organized crime, but they're not doing enough. And narcotics are currently having no effect. So here we see that the organized crime is just above the start trigger. Each red and green circle has a start trigger and a stop trigger. You don't get to see what the start trigger is until the red circle appears. And at that point you get to look back and see how your policies have affected the growth and, well, the overall growth of the problem or benefit. And if the blue lines fall below the stop trigger, that means the situation will end. It also gives you a little bit of a blurb of what the circle is and how or kind of gives you hints of how to deal with the policy and situation. So currently, intelligence services is kind of keeping this stable, but it's not really decreasing it. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the other things. Now we know narcotics has an effect on organized crime, but we don't know what it is. Right now, narcotics is currently outlawed. That means no drugs at all. And there are 4 different levels. There's outlawed, legalized cannabis, legalized LSD, and legalize all drugs. As you see, red and green bars have been shifting with each one. The most I would ever go, personally, is legalizing cannabis, because I do not see a reason to take LSD. But let's see. So you take a look, we have liberals who are kind of mad that all drugs are outlawed, but the conservatives are all fine and peachy and happy as heck. Well, let's adjust this. Now we see that liberals are, they're kind of happy after that result, and conservatives, they're kind of miffed. But organized crime does take a hit. Illegal drug consumption jumps up because there's now legal drugs. In fact, I'm kind of curious, why doesn't this go up to 100%? I'm kidding. Tourism increases a bit. And crime does increase a little bit, and parents get a little bit mad. We don't need to worry about that, though, because we don't have enough of these political points to spend. And in case you didn't realize this yet, this is going to be a long startup, because first I'm going to be explaining a bunch of things, and then we're going to actually start going into the game part. And it might be a few episodes before we're just kind of flying through these, making decisions, and me talking about things every now and then. So let's see, what else is there that we can take care of then? Well, there are some policies that are available that are not actually on this board. That's because they're not yet implemented. If we go to this light bulb, we can see different policy ideas for each category. There's foreign policy, welfare, economy, which there's a lot for the economy. Taxes, a lot for the taxes, of course. Public services, law and order, and transport. Now, one of the things I would like to get in place is, well, currently we don't have enough points for it, but it is legalized prostitution. Yes, I am one of those people that think prostitution should be legal. And it's not because I want to be able to just go to a brothel whenever I feel like. No, it's because when you have things like this illegal, the people that are involved in it cannot go to the police to get help. Kind of like, let's see, what would be a good example to compare to? I suppose the Prohibition would be a good one. When alcohol was illegal, there was rampant crime centered around alcohol, and no one could really turn to the police to help solve a problem. They had to deal with it themselves, and that usually involved guns, knives, possibly baseball bats, a bunch of things that resulted in death. There also was no regulation for the alcohol, so the alcohol could be pretty much like water with some rubbing alcohol in it for all you know, or it could be like very dangerous for you to drink and you could possibly die drinking it. So, yeah, it was not a good time in America. Now, prostitution has some similar problems. Women on the street that choose to work in prostitution, because there are women that choose to do it, don't think that the only people in prostitution are just like people that have like no choice and are just in a bad spot in their life. There are people that choose to do this because they love to do it. And there goes my phone. Darn it. Anyway. What was my track of thought? I lost it. Oh, anyway. There's no regulation for the prostitution. There is no safe place for them to go and do their business. It's a very bad mess. There's the potential for STDs, or STIs, I guess. I think that's what they're called now. There's potential kidnapping that can get involved. it's not a good situation. The best idea would be to tolerate the existence of prostitution and give them a place where they can actually stay out of the public eye. The idea that prostitution marks the decline in family values, it's ridiculous. Because I don't even know how you get to that point. Two people want to have sex, and if they exchange money, all of a sudden it's the decline of family values. If they don't exchange money, it's fine and dandy. Okay. I don't really see how that works. Okay. So organized crime, that's something that we're not really going to be able to take care of right now. How about increasing our money? Because we currently are spending more than we are receiving. Well, the GDP would be a good way to do that. And oh my god, look at this web. Yes, the GDP is severely affected by many, many things. And in cases like this where there's so many lines that you can't make out what's going on, just click the button. Okay. So let's see, what's decreasing our GDP? Corporation tax, capital gains tax, petrol tax, pollution controls. Science funding is increasing it, crime is decreasing it. So we do need to take care of crime because that is a big contributor. Productivity, that is one of the biggest contributors to a lower GDP. Traffic congestion, uncompetitive economy, that is the biggest one. And that is probably one of the hardest ones to actually take care of. And technology backwater. Okay, so what's causing an uncompetitive economy? Well, mainly the thing that's causing an uncompetitive economy is a corporation tax. Productivity is somehow detracting from it, but we are currently having an issue with productivity, I think. We need to increase productivity. And, well, alcohol consumption is currently causing productivity to take a hit. So how do we solve alcohol consumption? Well, alcohol law or alcohol tax. GDP also increases alcohol consumption, I guess because people are drinking champagne to their success or something like that. Poverty increases it, unemployment increases it. Let's take a look at the alcohol law then. Now this one is... I do have an issue with this one. Because alcohol consumption is... While yeah, it does increase, there's a little bit of a issue with the whole people drinking responsibly kind of thing. I suppose if I really wanted to increase the amount of money I'm getting, I should just increase alcohol consumption way up to the top and then tax the heck out of it. But as you see, if we lower the minimum age to where there's no limits at all, alcohol consumption skyrockets and violent crime skyrockets. And the youth, they are like, okay, we're fine with you. Here's my problem with it though. I don't think that no limits on alcohol consumption or the minimum age really increases violent crime. And that's because I think Italy is a good example, because in Italy there is no major limit on alcohol age. You can drink it as a kid at family gatherings or something like that. And they don't really have much problem with alcohol abuse from what I know. So I'm not sure this is really reflective of reality or if it's just kind of eh. And as much as I want to increase this just to lower alcohol consumption, I don't really know. I mean, liberals aren't happy with it, but it's got so much benefits. Alcohol consumption goes down, and alcohol consumption is apparently a big problem. And violent crime goes down. So we'll go with it. I don't agree with the idea of raising the minimum age to 21. I think that as soon as you're able to shoot a gun, yeah, or defend your country, I mean, you should be able to have a drink. Because what better way to deal with the fact that you're being shot at by crazed militants than by getting plastered? Am I right? Oh boy. So, we're going to go through this turn for this episode, and then we'll go through the after effects of everything I've decided, and that'll be an episode. What the heck is this? Oh, legal brothel use. Well, currently there is no brothel use, because there's no legal brothels yet. Okay, small thing that I can increase. I could increase the alcohol tax. In fact, let's bump it up to 24%. No, 21%. It'll increase our income by like $1 billion. Okay, so let's move on. Misinterpret the Constitution, inventing the internet. Let's go to government. And here we have the second screen that you get to look at every turn. It's got a budget report, which tells us, like, if we have a minor deficit problem, which we only have a $3.79 billion deficit, which is okay. That's not bad. America is like... Oops, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about the sun leaving. Neighbor was knocking on my door to let me know that the guy who plows the parking lot came at a time where he... Well... Okay, here's the thing. the guy that's supposed to plow is supposed to be around like 1 o'clock after a snowfall. Doesn't say what day after a snowfall. Just 1 o'clock after a snowfall. And... Well, right now it's 3 o'clock. I'd say he's late, or that he... You know, I don't even know what to think about it anymore, because our vehicle was towed once because it wasn't moved at 1. And that was 3 days after a snowfall. And it just snowed this morning, and the guy came to plow it at 3. So I have no idea when to be worried about when the car has to be moved at all. It's incredibly irritating. I can't wait for winter to be over. And winter is my favorite season. After fall. Okay, so let's talk about what we see here now. So aside from the budget report, sometimes there is, like, an urgent policy that needs our attention. In this case, it's the debt protection law. Debt collection agencies have been in the news because of the aggressive methods they are using to extract payment from people who owe large sums of money. These debt collection agencies provide credit to people whom larger, more respectable companies will not lend money. A law is proposed to limit the ways in which such agencies can operate. We can either limit agency activity, which, you know, these agencies are preying on the weakest and poorest in our society and often tricking them into borrowing money at exorbitant rates that can never be repaid. This is little more than extortion, and the government should act at once to limit severely the activities of such unscrupulous companies, or allow the agencies to operate. Nobody forces people to borrow money they can't repay, and to restrict the rights of debt agencies to recover legitimate debts would be counterproductive. People need to learn to live within their means and not expect the state to bail them out of trouble if they can't learn to do so. Well, the state is supposed to look after the people, not companies. And to be honest, if agencies are dumb enough to lend money to people that are questionable at best for whether or not they can be expected to repay money, it's the agency's own fault. Research your shit, agencies. Okay, then there's security briefing and cabinet reports. Cabinet report gives you an overall idea of what your ministers are like, and security briefing just kind of lets you know what troubles there are with these different things. Human Rights Society is like the biggest membership of all, and I'm sure they will eventually like my ideas because I am for human rights. These guys are like terrorist groups, and they can kill you. Literally, they will assassinate you if they feel like it. But that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys are going to look forward to the series. I am going to enjoy the heck out of the series because I like to mess around with politics every now and then. So, don't forget to like, subscribe, and fave. I will see you in the next episode when we legalize prostitution or something like that. Take care and goodbye.